Are you standing at a crossroads right now, staring down a path you desperately want to take? You feel an overwhelming, almost frantic urge to make a move, to finally choose a direction and run with it. Yet, right as you are about to step forward, there is this invisible, heavy pull, keeping your feet firmly planted on the ground. You want to act, you want to speak, you want to reach out and claim what looks so perfect right in front of you, but a quiet, almost unsettling intuition is telling you to stop. Don't touch it yet. It is not fear, it is not hesitation, and it is certainly not laziness. It is a profound, silent resistance deep within your mind that you cannot quite explain to anyone else, no matter how hard you try. Let us be completely honest about how agonizing this liminal space truly feels. You are watching the world accelerate around you. Your peers seem to be sprinting ahead, ticking off milestones and securing wins, while you feel like you are trapped in a sterile waiting room for a train that refuses to arrive. It is emotionally exhausting, isn't it? The late-night anxiety whispering that you are permanently falling behind, the heavy, suffocating weight of stagnation pressing on your chest the moment you wake up. Driven by this insecurity, you try to force things to happen. You frantically reach out, trying to grab onto any random opportunity, any relationship, or any quick fix, just to feel the comforting illusion of momentum. But every time you try to force the lock, the key just bends. This is the dark zone of insecurity. It is the deeply uncomfortable psychological space where your ego screams at you to do something, anything, just to prove to yourself and others that you are still moving. You are wrestling with the frantic, exhausting need to validate your existence through constant motion. But what if this agonizing pause is not a punishment, but a psychological necessity? This is not random stagnation, and you are not being left behind. However, if you ignore what is happening beneath the surface right now, if you succumb to the fear of missing out and force your way forward prematurely, you are bound to carry your unresolved flaws into your next chapter, repeating the exact same destructive cycles. Pay close attention, because what we are about to decode will completely dismantle the way you view your delays. Once you understand the hidden behavioral science behind this waiting period, you will never react to life's invisible pressures the same way again. To understand why waiting feels like physical torture, we have to look past our emotions and examine the hardwiring of our brains. You see, human beings were not biologically designed for patience. From an evolutionary standpoint, our survival depended on immediate action. If our ancestors saw a source of food, they consumed it. If they perceived danger, they ran. This primal instinct is deeply embedded in your neurobiology, specifically within your brain's reward system. Every time you take action and see an immediate result, your brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter that makes you feel good, secure, and successful. Over time, we have become entirely addicted to this dopamine loop of instant gratification. We expect the text message back immediately, the promotion instantly, the breakthrough overnight. So, what happens when life suddenly puts you in a holding pattern? What happens when you put in the effort, but the reward is unexpectedly delayed? Your brain literally interprets this delay as a biological threat. When the anticipated dopamine drops, your nervous system triggers a state of alarm, that frantic feeling in your chest, that overwhelming, suffocating urge to just do something that is not your intuition guiding you. That is your biology panicking. Your mind is screaming that if you are not moving, you are failing. But you are no longer running from predators in the wild. The challenges you face today are complex, requiring long-term strategy and emotional regulation, not just short-term reflexes. When you allow your primal neurochemistry to dictate your modern life, you become a slave to your impulses. You start making critical life decisions based on the desperate need for a quick dopamine hit, rather than waiting for what actually aligns with your ultimate purpose. This biological panic leads us straight into one of the most dangerous psychological traps, the confusion between movement and progress. Because we cannot stand the anxiety of sitting still, we create the illusion of momentum through fake busyness. We convince ourselves that as long as we are doing something, anything at all, we are moving forward. Think about the times you have tried to force a square peg into a round hole. Driven by the fear of being left behind, how often have you clung to a toxic relationship simply because it was better than sitting alone with your thoughts? How many times have you jumped at a subpar opportunity or poured your energy into a meaningless distraction just to avoid the profound discomfort of the void? We grab onto the wrong things because the right things have not arrived yet, and we lack the emotional discipline to wait for them. This action for the sake of action is not ambition, it is an anxiety response. It is a defense mechanism designed entirely to numb the pain of uncertainty. The problem is that filling your schedule with chaotic tasks or attaching yourself to misaligned goals creates a false sense of security. You feel productive, but in reality, you are running on a treadmill. You are expending massive amounts of energy, exhausting yourself, but you are not actually going anywhere. You are merely distracting yourself from the fact that life has asked you to pause. True progress often requires periods of absolute stillness, but our ego violently rebels against this because stillness feels indistinguishable from failure. It is much easier to be busy and chaotic than it is to be silent and self-aware. When you continually surrender to this impatience, you begin paying a massive psychological toll, what we can call the sunk cost of rushing. You start investing time, money, and emotional capital into paths that were never meant for you, simply because you could not bear the weight. And once you have invested that much into the wrong choice, the sunk cost fallacy kicks in. You refuse to let go, stubbornly trying to fix a situation that you should never have entered in the first place. People often complain about the deep exhaustion of waiting, but that is a profound misconception. True waiting, conscious, intentional waiting, does not deplete you. What actually causes burnout is the relentless, exhausting friction of trying to control things that are entirely out of your hands. Burnout is the direct consequence of resisting reality. Every time you try to rip open a cocoon before the butterfly is ready, you destroy the process. By frantically trying to force an outcome, you do not speed up your success, you actively sabotage it. You drain the very energy you will desperately need when the right door finally opens. If we accept that rushing is a biological trap and forced momentum is a psychological illusion, how do we survive the waiting? We survive it, and ultimately master it, by completely redefining what it means to wait. We must undergo a radical cognitive reframing. We have to stop viewing the pause as an unfair penalty and start recognizing it as the most profound developmental stage of our lives. The author Robert Greene often talks about the concept of alive time versus dead time. When you are stuck in a holding pattern, you have two distinct choices in how you process that reality. You can enter dead time, a state of passive existence where you succumb to frustration, numb yourself with endless digital distractions, complain bitterly about your circumstances, and simply count the days until something in the external world changes to rescue you. In dead time, you are a helpless victim of the clock, slowly decaying in your own resentment. But there is an alternative, alive time. Alive time transforms the waiting room into a high-stakes laboratory. It is the conscious, proactive decision to utilize the delay as an intentional pause. You realize that this uncomfortable gap between where you are and where you want to be is not an empty void, it is a highly concentrated period of internal growth. It is in this exact space that your overarching worldview is sharpened and your deepest self-empathy is cultivated. The pause is not preventing you from reaching your destination. It is the very vehicle preparing you to possess the maturity to handle the destination once you finally arrive. When you shift your mindset from, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "What is this pause preparing me for?" the psychological torment of waiting evaporates, replaced by a quiet, fierce, and undeniable focus. This intentional pause is not a peaceful, passive state. It is an active, demanding, and often painful process of ego refinement. Think about what happens when a vehicle moving at 100 miles an hour suddenly slams on the brakes. Everything loose inside goes violently flying forward. The exact same mechanism applies to your psyche. When your external momentum abruptly stops, all your unexamined internal baggage is thrown violently to the surface. When the noise of constant busyness fades, you are left alone with the deafening silence of your own mind. For the human ego, this is absolutely terrifying. The ego survives on external validation, on the applause of others, on visible metrics of success, and on the adrenaline of always having a task to complete. When those metrics and distractions are removed, the ego feels like it is dying. But this death is precisely what must happen for true growth to occur. In the stillness of the intentional pause, your illusions of control are systematically dismantled. You are forced to look in the mirror without the flattering lighting of constant achievement. You must confront your shadow self, the hidden repository of your deepest insecurities, your unspoken fears, your fragile pride, and your unhealed psychological wounds. These are the fractured parts of your identity that you have been successfully outrunning by staying exhausted and busy, but you cannot outrun them forever. Why is this internal confrontation so absolutely critical? Because if you are handed the relationship, the career milestone, or the massive success you are desperately seeking before you have confronted your shadow, you will inevitably destroy it. If your psychological foundation is cracked, building a heavier, more complex structure on top of it will only guarantee a more catastrophic collapse. The flaws you refuse to heal in your season of waiting will become the exact mechanisms of your downfall in your season of success. Therefore, the pause is a necessary purification process. It is life's ruthless but compassionate way of burning away what is false, arrogant, and fragile within you. It demands that you strip away the protective masks you wear for society and rebuild your core identity on something far more stable than external achievements. You are not being held back. You are being hollowed out and made deeper so that you can actually hold the immense weight of the life that is coming for you. As you endure this refinement and refuse to give in to the panic of stagnation, something incredible happens in your brain architecture. You begin to construct what we can call a psychological buffer zone. The renowned psychiatrist Viktor Frankl famously observed that between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our freedom and our power to choose. The psychological buffer zone is the deliberate, conscious expansion of that sacred space. Every single time you feel the visceral, burning urge to react impulsively, to send that angry text, to accept that mediocre job offer out of fear, to chase a fleeting distraction, but you choose to sit with the discomfort instead, you are reinforcing this buffer. You are literally rewiring your prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for executive function, long-term strategic planning, and emotional regulation. By consciously deciding not to touch the immediate, shiny object placed in front of you, you are engaging in profound cognitive training. You are teaching your central nervous system that a delayed response is not a threat to your biological survival. This emotional boundary protects your precious cognitive energy from being siphoned off by every minor crisis, passing trend, or superficial temptation that crosses your path. You stop bleeding energy into things that do not matter. Furthermore, this buffer zone becomes an extraordinarily powerful filter for critical thinking. When you are rushing through life, your brain operates in perpetual tunnel vision, scanning only for immediate threats or instant rewards. You become highly reactive to the chaotic noise of the world. But when you establish a psychological buffer, the dust finally settles. You step back from the canvas of your life. From this elevated vantage point, the seemingly random and chaotic fragments of your experiences begin to form a cohesive, intelligible picture. You stop viewing isolated setbacks as ultimate tragedies and start recognizing them as necessary data points. You begin to see the hidden variables at play, the subtle toxic dynamics in your relationships, and the long-term trajectories of your decisions that you were previously too rushed to notice. The brain finally acquires the bandwidth to filter out the irrelevant static and focus intently on the overarching narrative of your life. The world will constantly test your resolve by placing lesser alternatives in your path while you wait. These are the things that look good enough to quiet the anxiety of waiting. The psychological buffer zone is what allows you to look at a good enough option, recognize it for the dangerous distraction it truly is, and gracefully walk away. It takes immense mental fortitude to leave a space in your life empty, tolerating the heavy ambiguity of the unknown, trusting that it will eventually be filled by what is truly right. It is a rebellion against the modern urge to frantically stuff the void with whatever cheap dopamine is available right now. This is the ultimate power of the intentional pause. It transforms you from a creature of blind impulse into a master of strategy and self-awareness. You are no longer a victim of circumstances being pushed around by external delays. You are an architect, deliberately using the silence to build a mind so sharp, so resilient, and so deeply grounded that when the time finally comes to make your move, absolutely nothing will be able to stop you. Let us draw a sharp line between two vastly different ways of moving through this world. When you are thrust into the discomfort of the unknown, when the pressure mounts and the path ahead is obscured, your mind will violently pull you toward one of two operational modes, reacting or responding. The difference between these two states is not just a matter of semantics, it is the exact difference between a life of chaotic frustration and a life of profound, intentional purpose. Consider the anatomy of a reaction. To react is to operate purely from the brain's primitive threat detection center. When you are in a reactionary state, you are entirely hijacked by your own anxiety. You feel that invisible pressure building in your chest, the societal clock ticking loudly in your ear, the suffocating weight of others' expectations, and you simply cannot bear the tension. So, you lash out. You make a move not because it is the right move, but because you are desperate to discharge that nervous energy. Think about the person who leaps into a new, ill-fitting career path solely because the shiny title provides a temporary band-aid for their bruised ego. Think about the individual who sends that impulsive, emotionally charged text message at 2 in the morning, desperately seeking validation because the silence of the night was too loud to handle. Think about the entrepreneur who pivots their entire business strategy based on a single week of bad metrics, completely abandoning their long-term vision out of sheer panic. This is reactionary living. It is a series of defensive spasms. You are blindly swiping at the dark, hoping to hit something solid. The tragedy of the reactionary life is that it operates on the ruthless law of compounding errors. When you make a desperate decision from a place of panic, you inevitably create a new set of complex, painful problems. To fix those new problems, you make another rushed decision, plunging yourself deeper into a labyrinth of your own making. You are moving incredibly fast, yes, but you are sprinting in the absolute wrong direction. And what is the ultimate emotional payout for this frantic race? A profound, hollow emptiness. When you finally grasp the thing you sacrificed your peace for, you realize it does not fit your soul. The temporary dopamine hit fades almost immediately, leaving you stranded in a life you did not actually want, built entirely out of an inability to wait. You have successfully avoided the temporary pain of stillness, but you have traded it for the permanent ache of living an inauthentic life. You have surrendered your autonomy to your anxiety. Now, let us look at the other side of the spectrum, the quiet, formidable art of responding. To respond is to engage the highest faculties of your human intelligence. It is the absolute hallmark of emotional mastery. While a reaction is an involuntary reflex to pain, a response is a deliberate, calculated choice made in the face of pain. When the emotionally intelligent person is placed in the exact same waiting room, feeling the exact same biological urge to panic, they do something radically different. They do not suppress the anxiety, nor do they let it take the steering wheel. Instead, they step back and observe it. They treat their own emotions as data points, rather than directives. They feel the heart race. They hear the ego screaming for immediate action. They recognize the fear of being left behind, and they gently but firmly say, "I see you, I feel you, but you do not control my next step." This takes an excruciating amount of self-discipline. It requires you to sit in the blazing fire of your own insecurity without running for the nearest exit. But in doing so, you maintain your psychological sovereignty. You hold your ground. When you choose to respond, rather than react, the very nature of your movements changes. They are no longer jerky, defensive, and desperate. They become smooth, deliberate, and undeniably powerful. The responder knows that true power is never hurried. They understand that holding their energy back is just as vital as releasing it. By refusing to give their energy to every minor crisis, passing trend, or superficial temptation, they are actively stockpiling their cognitive and emotional resources. They are not waiting passively like a victim. They are coiled like a spring, gathering immense potential energy. This deliberate pacing allows them to evaluate their landscape with cold, clear objectivity. They can differentiate between an actual, life-changing opportunity and a cleverly disguised trap designed to waste their time. They are no longer asking the reactionary question, "Will this make me feel better right now?" Instead, they are asking the visionary question, "Does this align with the person I am becoming?" This single shift in inquiry changes the entire trajectory of their existence. They are no longer running away from their fears. They are walking confidently toward their ultimate vision, completely unbothered by the fact that the journey requires time and patience. Eventually, the invisible barrier lifts. The period of necessary waiting comes to an end, and the moment of the tipping point arrives. This is the exact intersection where your deep, silent preparation finally meets the right opportunity. If you have spent your waiting period reacting, exhausting yourself with false starts and toxic attachments, this moment will likely pass you by. You will simply be too depleted or too entangled in the wrong commitments to even recognize the door that has opened. But if you have spent this time honing your ability to respond, the tipping point is a moment of sheer, crystalline clarity. When the right opportunity finally presents itself, you do not feel the frantic, anxious need to rush it. There is no confusion, no agonizing, second-guessing, and no desperate grasping. Instead, there is a profound, quiet certainty that radiates through your entire nervous system. You step forward with the calm, quiet authority of someone who has mastered themselves. You make the move not out of a fear of missing out, but out of total, undeniable alignment with your core purpose. And in that exact moment, the deepest reward of this entire grueling process reveals itself. The absolute, unshakable inner peace of knowing that you did not settle for the cheap illusion of momentum, but held out for the reality of your destiny. If you find yourself in this exact space right now, where the momentum of your life seems to have inexplicably stalled, and the silence around you feels deafening, I want you to take a deep breath and consciously release the panic. You are not broken. You have not missed your window of opportunity, and the universe is not conspiring against you. What you are experiencing is the profound, necessary architecture of personal evolution. Your ego is being meticulously restructured so that your authentic self can finally take the lead. I challenge you to give yourself permission to simply rest within this uncertainty. Stop frantically trying to pry open doors that are clearly meant to remain closed for now. The intense urge you feel to rush is nothing more than an old psychological survival mechanism that you no longer need. When you finally stop fighting the pause, the exhaustion of waiting transforms into the quiet relief of surrender. You realize that you do not need to have all the answers today. You just need to have the courage to stand still, trusting that the clarity you seek is already making its way to you at the exact pace it was always meant to. Information without application is just entertainment, and the insights we have explored today will only change your life if you make a conscious decision to integrate them. Cognitive behavioral psychology shows us that writing down an intention dramatically increases the likelihood of following through with it. So, I am asking you to make a tangible, public commitment to your own psychological growth, right here, right now. If this message resonated with the silent battles you have been fighting, and if you are ready to stop letting anxiety dictate your life's timeline, I want you to go down to the comments section and simply type, "I choose patience." This is not just about leaving a comment, it is a psychological anchor. It is a micro-commitment to yourself that the next time you feel the frantic, burning urge to make a rush decision out of fear, you will remember this exact moment. You will remember that you made a conscious vow to step back, to breathe, and to respond with emotional intelligence rather than reacting out of panic. By typing those words, you are drawing a line in the sand and taking back your power. But the work does not stop with a single commitment. The intentional pause requires active, daily maintenance. If you want to know exactly how to navigate this waiting period without losing your mind, you need the right psychological tools. To help you with this, I have created a detailed, step-by-step guide featuring specific journaling prompts designed to help you confront and dismantle that harsh inner critic that gets so loud when you are sitting in stillness. These are the exact frameworks used in cognitive reframing to help you separate your actual intuition from your biological anxiety. You can find the link to this free, in-depth guide pinned right at the top of the description below. Download it, grab a pen, and use this time to genuinely explore the shadow side of your ambition. Finally, if you are committed to mastering your mind and understanding the hidden behavioral science behind why we do what we do, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We are building a community of individuals dedicated to intentional living, and I want you to be a part of it. Your breakthrough is coming. Until then, hold your ground,